Man, I never thought my 12 years with Allison would end like this. Totally blindsided. You think you know someone, then bam, divorce hits you and you realize you were married to a stranger. We met when we were in our 20s. She was driven, bright, and we were on the same page about life, build a solid foundation before having kids. We both busted our butts, saved every penny we could, and finally got our dream place, a gorgeous 4-bedroom house in a great neighborhood. 5 years ago, it set us back $475,000. My grandpa left me some money, about $180,000, which covered a good chunk of the down payment, almost half. The rest we'd saved together, and we locked in a decent 30-year mortgage. I was sure both our names were on everything. Boy, was I wrong. Things started going south about 2 years back. Allison became super distant, always working late, spending her weekends with her friends. Then 4 months ago, I stumbled across some emails. Turns out she'd been seeing her boss, Richard, for over a year. When I confronted her, she didn't even say sorry, just told me she'd grown apart from me and wanted out. I figured, fine, we'd split things amicably. Sell the house, divide everything up, and move on with our lives. I even moved into a tiny apartment to make things easier while we figured it all out. Huge mistake. 2 weeks later, I called the mortgage company to talk about selling the house, and the guy on the phone sounded totally confused. He said, "Sir, our records show you're not on this mortgage." My stomach just dropped. My gut just hit the floor. She told me the mortgage had been redone like 6 months prior, and it was only in Allison's name. I went and looked at the county records. Yep, the deed was now only in Allison's name. When I called Allison, she actually laughed. "It's my house now," she said. "My lawyer says possession is everything. You left, remember? Plus, most of the mortgage was paid with my money anyway." That was a flat-out lie. We'd both paid equally on the mortgage, and I had used my inheritance for a big chunk of the down payment. So I asked about my inheritance. We were married. She said, "What's mine is mine, and what's yours is also mine." Then she hung up. I called a lawyer right away. Lisa was a straight-up shark, costly but worth it. She said Allison committed fraud. Lisa told me she forged my signature on papers. That's breaking the law. We filed an emergency thing with the court and got started on our case. In the meantime, Allison moved Richard into my house. Her Instagram was full of them redoing my kitchen, having dinner parties with our friends. She even put up a photo with a caption that read, "Upgrade complete, 100, with Richard kissing her. Her sister Jen commented, "So happy you got rid of the dead weight. You deserve this." That stung. Then Allison's mom called to tell me to grow up and just move on. Apparently, Allison and Richard were soulmates. I didn't say anything back. While they were playing house, I was working with my lawyer, putting together a rock-solid case. So the investigation I started, it really opened my eyes to things. My lawyer thought it'd be smart to get a private eye to follow Allison and Richard around. The info the pie dug up was crazy. Richard was still married, believe it or not. They'd been apart for 2 years but never got divorced. His wife, Camille, didn't have a clue he was with Allison. I reached out to Camille online and we met up for coffee. She'd been trying to get divorce papers served to Richard for ages, but he was always avoiding her lawyer. She also had a feeling he was hiding money. He told the court he'd been broke since we split up, she said. But he was cruising around in a brand new BMW and going on fancy trips. The judge only gave me the bare minimum in temporary support, based on what he said he earned. I showed her some Instagram pics of them redoing my kitchen. 22 grand worth of work. The pie found the receipts. She actually started crying. That lowlife told the judge he couldn't afford more child support for our daughter's medical bills. We decided to team up. At the same time, Allison was getting more and more demanding. She texted me, "I donated all your stuff to Goodwill. It was just cluttering up my garage." That included my grandfather's old fishing stuff and my dad's record collection. When I didn't answer, she kept calling over and over. In the 7th message, she said, "You're acting like a child. Richard and I are trying to move on, and your drama is tiring." My lawyer said I had no legal ground to stand on. Milo, our dog, prefers Richard anyway. Lisa figured out something huge. Allison didn't just scribble my name on those refinancing papers. Nope, she did it right after Richard, her boss, gave her a promotion. Lisa said, "This changes everything." She explained that it looked like a conspiracy and a violation of company ethics. Remember how we updated the complaint with the court? I also anonymously told Richard's company's HR department about some shady stuff going down at work. The day after we filed with the court, Allison called me 16 times. I just texted her back one thing: "What's mine is mine. What's yours is yours. Talk to my lawyer." Then I blocked her number. 2 days later, Jen showed up at my place, yelling at me and calling me an awful name. My neighbor heard the whole thing and called security. Jen said Richard had connections and I better watch out. So I sent the video to my lawyer and he filed for a restraining order against Jen. In the meantime, Camille filed some emergency stuff in her divorce case, including proof of where Richard really lived and how much money he had. We got a date for our emergency petition in court. Lisa was sure they were guilty of mortgage fraud. The proof was all there. Then Allison's lawyer emailed me about settling. They wanted to sell the house and split the money. 50-50. I just laughed. My counteroffer. So we got the house back in both our names, plus a measly $90,000 for the damage they caused. Otherwise, we were going after them with everything we had legally and criminally. That's when things really started to fall apart. Richard got put on leave from his job. They were investigating him for bad behavior at work and abusing his power. Apparently, other women had complained about him before, but somehow those complaints vanished into thin air. Then Allison completely freaked out. She texted me, "What have you done? Richard's in trouble at work. This is all your fault." She called me 43 times that day. I sent her one text back, just one, and it was all over. I said something like, "Fraud's a serious crime around here, you know. 5 to 10 years in jail. Hope that house was worth it." Radio silence after that. Our court date rolled around and Allison showed up looking like a wreck. I mean, dark circles under her eyes, hair a mess, wearing sweatpants. She never wears sweatpants in public. Richard wasn't even there. Her lawyer was whispering in her ear the whole time, like crazy. Right before everything started, Allison's lawyer pulled Lisa aside for a quick chat. They came back with a deal. Allison would put the house back in both our names. She'd pay me $100,000 for the emotional crap I went through, and I wouldn't press charges. I did the math. The house was officially mine. I got $890,000 back for my part of the inheritance, plus $40,000 for my lawyer. And they gave me a written confession that it was all fraud, no criminal trial. They agreed to everything except for one tiny little change. The court documents were going to be private, only for the judge to see. As we were leaving the courthouse, Allison tried to get to me. She said, "Alex, can we please talk?" I did. But Lisa immediately jumped in front of me. "All communication has to go through the lawyers." Allison's face just crumpled then. She asked, "But what about Milo? You're not gonna take him away too, are you?" She reminded me, "You said Milo likes Richard better, right?" I didn't actually intend to try to take Milo. That night, Allison's mom called me, practically begging me to go easy on her daughter. I just didn't call her back. The next day, Camille texted me, "Richard has been served." There were divorce papers. She also sent me a link to a news article. Turns out Richard's company had found some shady money stuff tied to Allison's promotion and some real estate deals. They'd fired him and were working with the cops. Then 2 days later, Lisa called with an update. Richard had gotten arrested for stealing from the company. Allison wasn't charged with anything, but her name at work was ruined. They wanted her to quit. As agreed, Allison signed the house over to me and also sent me $130,000. The next weekend, Allison and Richard moved out. She kept Milo, which was totally fine with me despite what I'd said in court. I knew it'd be awful to split them up. While I was cleaning out Allison's office, I found a journal. It had all the details of her affair with Richard, all the promises he'd made to make her a company wife once he was divorced. One thing in particular stood out. As a good guy, don't get me wrong, but he was just fine with things. Richard showed me what else was out there, how amazing I could be. I deserved amazing. I shut the journal and tucked it away in the box with her stuff. 6 months after moving back, I was finally getting my life back. Weeks I spent getting rid of every single thing that reminded me of Allison. Every room got a fresh coat of paint, new furniture. The garden got completely redone. It was mine again. Allison was still trying to reach me, though, calling mutual friends, new numbers, even a letter. I didn't budge. "Just give her 5 minutes," our friend Marcus told me. "She's a mess, man, lost her job, back at her parents'. She knows she screwed up." I just said, "Actions have consequences." I threw myself into work and therapy. Dr. Reeves helped me deal with the anger and hurt without letting it eat me alive. About 3 months after everything was settled, Camille sent me a message. Richard had copped a plea to embezzlement and fraud, got his sentence reduced for helping out, and ended up with 18 months in a low-security place. She'd finalized her divorce, got full custody of their daughter, and was starting over. As for Allison, after she lost her job, she had a hard time finding anything as good. The whole scandal thing was a huge red flag for any new job. She ended up taking a position but making about half of what she used to. 4 months after we reached a settlement, she just showed up at my front door. She was thinner and her usually perfect blonde hair had dark roots. "Please, Alex," she pleaded. 5 minutes. Even though I knew better, I let her in. She sank onto my new couch, her eyes scanning the remodeled room. "You changed everything," she whispered. "Yeah," I replied simply. She took a deep breath. I'm sorry, what I did was I can't even excuse it. I got so caught up in Richard's lies and the dream he was spinning. I told myself I deserved better, that cheating the system was okay. I didn't say anything. Look, I'm not looking for you to forgive me, she continued. I just needed you to know I get it now. The house, the money you inherited, everything. I let greed and my own stupid pride trash my morals, and I'm living with the consequences. Where's Milo? I asked. With my parents, I'm working crazy hours these days. It wouldn't be right for him. She wiped her eyes. He misses you. You were always his favorite, no matter what happened. Bullshit, I said, but some of the anger inside me started to fade. Not forgiveness exactly, just I was tired of being mad. Allison, I said, I appreciate you saying you're sorry, but we've both moved on with our lives. She nodded and stood up. I know, I think about what I messed up every single day, and it's not just the stuff, it's the trust, the partnership. You were a good husband, Alex. As she turned to go, I felt this weight start to lift. Allison, I called out, Milo should be with someone who's around enough to really take care of him. If you want, he could stay here sometimes. The look of gratitude on her face was real. I'd like that, she said softly. He'd like that a lot. 2 weeks later, she dropped him off for the weekend. Seeing that furry goofball come barreling in, tail whipping back and forth, was the biggest smile I'd cracked in ages. Things have leveled out, This place finally feels like home, just mine. Work's going great, got a promotion even. Dating, not quite there yet, but I'm getting closer. Allison and I only talk about Milo, which is fine. She's back at her parents' saving up for a new place. Richard's still locked up. Camille, his ex-wife, is doing amazing, actually. Took their daughter to Disney World with the money Richard had to cough up the back, child support, I mean. There are times I wonder if I went too far, If I was too hard on them. But then I remember those papers, the ones about refinancing the house. I remember Allison laughing about taking my inheritance. I see them in my mind, fixing up my kitchen with my own cash while I was stuck in that crummy apartment. Nope. They got what they deserved. Justice was served, plain and simple. The weirdest thing is, I'm genuinely happier now than I was during those last few years we were married. So much more peaceful. This house really feels like mine. My life feels real, finally. If there's anything I learned from all this, it's this. When someone shows you their true colors, you better believe them. And don't ever let anyone take what's yours. Doesn't matter if it's your house, your money, or just your self-respect. Don't let them.